Dawson, I murmured, almost as if saying it aloud might summon him. Of course they knew each other. The name lingered in the air like a stain, heavy, suffocating, foul with privilege and contempt. Emma, I whispered, gently rolling up her sleeve. She tried to pull back, but I wouldn't let her hide it. The bruises were dark fingerprints climbing her arm, a ghostly map of violence. How long? I asked, barely above a whisper, each word heavy with dread. She shook her head, tears spilling freely. I can't tell you, Mom. I didn't want you to think I failed. That I didn't see. I closed my eyes. The sound of her voice cut through every shield I had built over decades, a piercing reminder that love was not armor. You didn't fail, I whispered. He did. The system is failing you, but I won't. Harper lingered at the doorway, silent, tense. Detective, I said, straightening my shoulders, voice cold steel. I need the full report. I need Adrian Dawson in custody. And Captain Caldwell. He hesitated, voice low, almost inaudible. Judge Ellison. I remember you. 10 years ago. The Carmichael case. You issued a restraining order. Saved my sister's life. The memory hung between us, thick with unspoken weight. Harper's next words came slowly, measured, like he was stepping carefully over a minefield. I didn't know Ms. Ellison was your daughter when they brought her in, he said. Dawson arrived first. Polished. Said she attacked him, claimed she needed psychiatric evaluation. Caldwell knows him from the golf club. They were having coffee when your daughter was brought in. Each revelation hit like a hammer. The system I had defended for decades, the one I had trusted with my life, had turned its back on my child. Where is he now? I asked, voice tight. Harper hesitated again. The answer was already written in his eyes. Later, I stood across from Adrian Dawson. Silence stretched between us like a taut wire, crackling. He tried to meet my gaze, but the arrogance faltered, the charm slipping like sand through fingers. I know how women survive men like you, I said evenly, voice low but resonant. They find ways to protect themselves. They leave traces, small invisible truths. And my daughter, she's smarter than you think. I paused, letting the words sink into the spaces where his confidence used to dwell. Bring it now, I said into my phone, my tone flat but lethal. Bring what? His face paled, voice trembling. The recordings, Adrian, I said, cold. 3 months of every moment you thought was hidden. Every threat, every hand raised, every word meant to make her doubt herself. Documented. It was a bluff. I didn't know for certain that the flash drive existed. But I knew patterns. I knew survivors. And judging by the fear draining the color from his face, I knew instinctively, I was right. He tried to recover, stammering, faltering. I leaned closer. You underestimated her, I whispered. Just like every man who thinks power protects him. But she's not afraid anymore. And neither am I. Harper remained behind me, silent, tense. Captain Caldwell said nothing, his face pale as the truth settled in the room like smoke curling in sunlight. Maybe I'm bluffing, I added, turning to leave. But even if I am, you're sweating like a guilty man. The hospital remained eerily silent when I returned to Emma. Dawn's first pale light crept through the blinds. The wound? I asked gently. She looked away, voice fragile. I tried to stop him. He cut himself during the struggle. Barely a scratch. But when he saw blood, he smiled. Said he'd go to the police, claim I attacked him. By the time the authorities arrived, he had rehearsed his story. Composed. Convincing. I knew they would believe him. Her sister, Jordan, reached out, squeezing Emma's hand. But he didn't count on Mom, she said softly. I touched the flash drive in my pocket. My fabricated evidence had become prophecy. I'm going back to the precinct, I told them. He's not walking out of there today. Mom, he has a lawyer, Emma said quickly. Randall Quinn, I said. The best in the city. He called before you even got here. I nodded slowly. He's not getting out. Not this time. I kissed her forehead. You're not alone anymore. Outside, the city stretched awake. Streets glowed pink and gold. Morning commuters shuffled along sidewalks, oblivious that between courthouse and hospital, a mother was quietly preparing for war. The courtroom was thick with tension, the kind that presses against your chest and makes every breath deliberate. Every eye was fixed on Darius Croft, sitting at the defendant's table. The arrogance that had once defined him was gone, replaced by slumped shoulders and trembling hands. Fear. Pure, undiluted fear. Aisha Khan stood at the prosecution table, calm but unyielding. Every piece of evidence was a weapon in her hands. Audio recordings, medical reports, photographs, witness statements, they cut through the room like blades of truth. Darius had built an empire on manipulation, stalking, and intimidation, and every piece of his carefully constructed illusion was crumbling before the court. The recordings played, his venomous voice echoing through the room. Each word, each threat, a piece of his calculated abuse laid bare. He had documented her pain, thinking it would shield him, but now those same recordings condemned him. Randall Quinn tried to interject, polished and cold. Your Honor, this material could easily be challenged. Sterling cut him off, voice sharp, decisive. You may challenge this at trial, counselor, but for now, probable cause has been established beyond any doubt. He leaned forward, gaze unflinching. Bail is denied. The defendant will remain in custody pending trial. A permanent restraining order is issued. Any contact with the victim or her family will result in immediate additional charges. Darius's composure cracked. No. This is insane. I have rights. I know people in this building. The gavel came down like thunder. Remove the defendant. 2 officers seized him, dragging him down the corridor. His voice, once commanding, echoed down the hall. Desperate, incoherent, meaningless. The man who thought he could control everyone was finally powerless. Aisha turned to me, her expression firm but satisfied. It's a strong start. The trial will be hard, but with what we have, I'm confident. I exhaled slowly. For the first time in days, the air didn't taste of fear. Walking out, the marble floors reflected morning light. Voices hummed in the corridor. Lawyers, reporters, people chasing their own version of justice. I passed a window and caught my reflection. Older, yes, exhausted, but alive. Fire still burned in my eyes. I called Jordan. She picked up instantly. Mom, it's over? I whispered. He's not getting out. A shaky breath followed. Half relief, half disbelief. Outside, the city had fully awakened. Cars passed, coffee shops opened, life moved on. But for me, everything had shifted. Skylar was finally safe. Darius Croft, the man who thought power could silence truth, was behind bars where he belonged. The trial began. The courtroom was a pressure cooker. Every eye focused on Darius, every ear on Aisha Khan, whose calm precision turned evidence into incontrovertible truth. The recordings played again, his voice dripping cruelty, unmasked by any pretense of charm. Photographs, medical reports, witness statements. Every piece of evidence painted a portrait of systematic abuse, meticulously planned psychological and physical harm, and deliberate attempts to manipulate the narrative against Skylar. The defense tried to twist it, suggesting exaggeration, misinterpretation, hysteria, but every argument collapsed under the weight of facts. Then Skylar took the stand. The room fell silent. She walked in slowly, shoulders straight, chin lifted. Skylar drew a steady breath. 3 months after we married. At first it was small, a push, a slap. Then flowers, apologies, promises. But it never stopped. It only got worse. Why didn't you leave sooner? Aisha's voice was soft. Skylar met the jury's eyes. I was afraid. He controlled everything. My money, my friends, my job. He isolated me until I believed I had nowhere to go. And when I tried to escape, he found the recordings I'd made. He threatened to destroy me. Said no one would believe me. Her voice trembled slightly, but she did not cry. The defense lawyer rose for cross-examination, tone sharp. Isn't it true you suffer from anxiety? Yes, she said simply. I developed it after months of living in terror. And you sought psychiatric help, didn't you? Yes. Because my husband was destroying me. Some of these injuries, could they have been accidental? Schuyler's gaze cut through him, steady and cold. Accidental cigarette burns? Accidental broken ribs? Accidental ligature marks? No. None of it was accidental. The lawyer hesitated, defeated. No further questions, he muttered. Schuyler left the stand. When she passed Darius, she didn't meet his eyes. He no longer held power over her. One by one, other women stepped forward. Chloe, Danielle, and more, each recounting manipulation, stalking, humiliation, and abuse. The pattern was undeniable. Darius's empire of control was unraveling before everyone's eyes. When the verdict was read, the courtroom held its breath. Silence fell, not empty, but heavy with release. Darius Croft was found guilty on all major counts. No applause, no cheating. Just a deep exhale of justice fulfilled. Weeks later, Schuyler sat in a sunlit cafe with her mother, Judge Ellison, and Sister Jordan. Golden light streamed through the windows. There were no tears, only quiet smiles and soft conversation. Schuyler had founded the Haven Foundation, dedicated to supporting survivors. Daniel had returned to college. Chloe was working as a trauma counselor. They were rebuilding, piece by piece. Schuyler took her mother's hand. It all started because you didn't give up. Because that morning you came. You fought for me. Judge Ellison smiled softly. I did what any mother would do. No, Schuyler said, shaking her head. You did what an extraordinary mother would. You used your strength, your voice, and your power. And you saved my life. Jordan arrived, grinning, waving a piece of good news. Remember the complaint I filed against Captain Cole? He's been suspended without pay. Investigations are reopening, evidence of negligence, favoritism, cases buried to protect friends. And Randall Quinn. He lost his license. The women breathed in relief, letting justice ripple outward. That night, they shared pie and laughter, discussing books, movies, and the small joys of life. For the first time in years, they were simply family. Not victims, not fighters, just free. As the sun set, Schuyler stepped onto the balcony, the city lights flickering below like stars. She thought of all the women still trapped in silence, and her mother joined her. What are you thinking? All the others, Schuyler whispered. The women without someone like you. The ones still afraid, thinking no one will believe them. That's why you tell your story, her mother said. Why you keep fighting. So they know they're not alone. Schuyler smiled faintly. That's why I'm writing the book. Recording these talks. To show there's hope. The city darkened below, but for the first time in years, Schuyler felt peace. Not vengeance, not fear, just quiet, resolute healing. She looked into the camera one last time, her voice calm, proud, and strong. Strength is born from pain. Healing begins the moment we stop hiding. If my story reaches you, know there is hope. You are not alone. The recording light faded. Silence returned, not of fear but of peace. Schuyler exhaled deeply. Her story was no longer a secret. It was a beacon. The sun had just risen over the city, spilling gold across the rooftops. But for Schuyler, the light didn't feel warm. It felt like a challenge. Safe, yes, but safety was only the beginning. The Haven Foundation had grown faster than she expected. Calls from survivors, emails from lawyers, journalists, and volunteers. Every story that came in was a reminder that the world was still broken, and the work wasn't done. Schuyler walked through the office, the hum of computers, phones, and quiet conversations filling the space. Volunteers moved with purpose, stacking files, answering calls, planning outreach programs. Every desk held a story. Every folder was a life someone had entrusted to them. Her mother, Judge Ellison, watched from the far side of the room, her presence a quiet anchor. "How are you holding up?" she asked, voice gentle. Skylar paused, looking around. "It's overwhelming. Every news story, every call. It's like the fight never stops. But we can't stop. Not now." Ellison nodded. Weeks passed in a blur of calls, emails, and strategy sessions. Skylar became a public figure overnight, her story going viral. Interviews, podcasts, social media features, each platform a chance to give a voice to those still trapped. The attention was both a blessing and a threat. Threatening letters arrived, anonymous phone calls in the middle of the night, the occasional stranger loitering near the office. But Skylar refused to retreat. One late night, she sat at her desk, scanning through survivor testimonies. Chloe, Danielle, even women who had never spoken publicly before, all of them shared details of abuse that mirrored Darius's tactics. And in their stories, she noticed patterns. Other predators in similar positions of power, protected by the same corrupt networks. Skylar's mother joined her quietly. "You've become a beacon," Ellison said softly. "But even beacons attract storms." "I know," Skylar replied. "But storms don't scare me anymore. They only remind me why this matters." Then came the call from Detective Harper. "Skylar, we've got someone reaching out. She says she's being monitored by people tied to Darius's old network. She's afraid, but she trusts you." Skylar's jaw tightened. "Send me everything. I'll handle it." That night, she called her sister Jordan. "We're going to meet her tomorrow. I need you with me." Jordan didn't hesitate. "Always." The next morning, the three women met in a small, nondescript cafe. The survivor was shaking, clutching her bag like a shield. Skylar reached across the table, letting her know without words. "You are safe here." I don't know who else to trust," the young woman whispered. "I've been alone for so long." "You're not alone anymore," Skylar said firmly. "We'll make sure of that. And we'll make sure whoever hurt you can't hurt anyone else." As weeks turned into months, Skylar and her team meticulously mapped Darius's network, exposing patterns of corruption, financial manipulation, and abuse. Every report, every piece of evidence, was shared with prosecutors, journalists, and advocacy groups. The network's influence began to unravel, slowly but undeniably. At night, Skylar would sometimes stand on the balcony, looking over the city that had once seemed indifferent to her pain. Now, every window below could be someone she helped, someone empowered. And she understood the weight of what she had started. Freedom was not just about being safe, it was about creating space for others to be free too. Months later, the Haven Foundation launched a citywide program. Safe houses, legal assistance, counseling, and digital protection for survivors. Skylar stood at the podium for the first public event, the room packed with volunteers, journalists, and survivors. Cameras flashed. Microphones captured her every word. "Strength," she said, voice steady, commanding, "is born from pain. Healing begins when we stop hiding. No one should face the dark alone. If my story helps even one person find courage, then everything we've done is worth it." The room erupted in applause, not just for her, but for the survivors she represented. Later, Skylar stepped onto the balcony. The city glittered below, alive with stories untold. Her mother joined her silently. "What are you thinking?" Ellison asked. Skylar looked up at the night sky. All the women still trapped, still waiting for someone to believe them. "I want them to know we see them. We hear them. And we will fight for them." Ellison squeezed her hand. "Then keep going. Because no one else will fight like you do." Skylar exhaled, a quiet, deep breath. She knew the road ahead would never be easy. But for the first time, she felt unshakable. The darkness was still out there, but so was the light they were creating. And that light, she realized, could never be